been asked to make a video about how to make the Scrubs hats, and what I've got here is material that is 45 inches wide, or 45 inches wide, and what I've done is I've washed it, but I've folded it in half across the width of the fabric. That gives me the fold on this side, because on the pattern piece, the fold, you're supposed to put the fold along that side there, and that will give you the whole piece when it's opened out, because you're not cutting that fold. What I do is another trick, which is I make sure there's a fold at the bottom as well. And this then, whoops, nearly lost the pattern. This then gives me a cheat. So if I put the fold on here and make sure the bottom of the pattern, where it's got the B and the 5 centimetres, goes on the bottom fold, that means it's less sewing. Hurrah! So this is the pattern piece. This is about 21, 22 inches from here to here. And this is the fold line in the fabric that you're going to put on the fold of the material. And this side is going to go on the bottom fold of the material. So this is hard up against that fold, and this is hard down against this fold. I like to use, this is a Clover chalk marker, and on darker fabrics it's really good for drawing out around the material. So what I do is make sure I've got it, I don't pin it. If I was doing this at school 50 years ago, I'd have pinned it. But frankly, life is too short. So what I do is start drawing along the edge, and it leaves just a little line of chalk. You don't have to be sort of Picasso. Well, maybe I am Picasso, I don't know. So you don't have to be hugely accurate. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is cut the hat band out. So if I start here with my trusty shears, and I'm just going to cut round the chalk mark like so. So that's cut it out. Now what you'll end up with, I'm just going to get rid of that. What you'll end up with is a piece that looks like this. And you think, look! And it's double what the pattern description says. So if you follow the pattern instructions, you're going to have a line sort of cut along there. Where I've got the fold here, you'll have a piece looking like that, or you'll have two pieces looking like this that you then need to join together. But because I put my pattern on the fold, it means I've just got one piece of material for the headband rather than two. And it saves on sewing, and it saves on time, thread, everything, because I don't have to sew along this bottom edge here. So what I've got is, that's the right side obviously, lovely flamingos. I would normally have two pieces, and the cut line would be here if you follow the instructions. But I cheated, and I decided to have a fold line on the bottom as well, And that just means that all I've got to do with this is actually sew it from about there to here. So wherever that mark is here, what I'll do in a minute is mark it out with a pin and then sew it from here round to here. Obviously with it together. And what I also need to do is cut out the hat bit. The material is still doubled, and so if I place the head of our top of the hat here, I'll draw round it again with the chalk marker, and it will give me two hats, or two hat heads, if that makes sense. Two tops of the hats. So, right, I'm drawing round it again. I'm terrible at drawing. Can't draw for toffee. But at least there's a line to guide me. And this, I like this chalk marker. The only thing it's not good for is if you've got light fabric. If you've got light fabric, then I would use one of the fabric marker pens which wash away, where this with darker fabric is really good because it just rubs off and you don't have to worry about it. Some of the fabric marker pens, if you iron them, they become a permanent mark, so just bear that in mind if you're using light fabric and use one of those fabric pens. They normally wash away with damp water. So here I am at the sewing machine, and what we need to do is just do a little seam at the bottom. I've turned it over about 1 centimetre and 1 centimetre and a bit, and I'm just that sort of rolled it over so it's a seam hem, and I'm just going to sew it. I've got a very old sewing machine here. It's a trusty machine. I've not pinned it. If you feel not confident enough to do it straight off, just put a couple of pins in. I'll show you on another one. I'll do another one and you can see if I put pins in. So I'm just going to sew it like this. And that's the top ready to insert onto the headband. I'll show you again, but this time I'll put some pins in just if you don't feel confident. So I've, again, about 1 centimetre and just over 1 centimetre. If I get a couple of pins and I'll just pin that in place. Just be careful not to get your sewing machine needle banging on the pins, otherwise you'll break your sewing machine needle. So they're just holding that in place. The other thing you could do is just iron it into place. Because this is cotton, once you iron it, it will hold into place, more or less. Okay, and I've got the pins in. I'm just going to sew a little bit. Take the pin out before I get to the needle gets to it. Sew across. And finish off there, and that is done. So I'll cut those because I only want one, but I've done two because that'll come in for another one that I'll do later. That's the tops ready to get inserted onto the headband. Right, so I've got this folded in half now. Make sure the ends meet and I can see where the centre is. If I put that pattern piece on there, then I can see where I need to sew from. So So they've got the dotted line there is where my sewing starts to go down that way. So if I just move this down just a little bit, get my two trusty pins again, and if I just put a pin in there and a pin in the other piece, I can adjust. Oops, I've pinned it all together. How silly is that? Pin in there and a pin in the other two pieces. So I'm pinning the two right sides together. I can get rid of that now. I won't need that again until I cut out some more pattern pieces. So what I've got is pinned together. That's where I'm going to sew from. This is where it gets really easy. A couple more pins. I'm just going to match that up and put a pin in the end there. If I were doing this at school 50 years ago, I'd have pinned it all, lots of pins all around here and here, and then I'd have tacked it and then I'd have sewn it. Life is too short. So I'm just going to go straight in and sew. If you want to do a bit more pinning, please do, but I feel confident enough that I'm happy. I'll get this matching and together as I sew it round. So I'm just going to start off with my old machine and sew through the pin. And the squeaking is the pedal of my sewing machine. It's not perfectly matched, but it's close enough for jazz. So I'm just holding it now. I've got no pins in there. I'm just holding it in place. I'm going to take it to the end, turn it. I'm going to back stitch on it just to secure it. And I'm going to do the same the other side. I'll just cut off those loose bits. I'm going to do the same the other side. Just roughly match it up. So it doesn't matter at this stage because it'll all come out in the turning of it. So I'm going to sew from there down to there. What I saved by doubling up that fold is I'm not having to sew that whole length along here, which saves you a lot of time. A lot of time and a lot of grief. Okay. So I'm going to do a few stitches just to secure at the start. I'll try and match up the material. I really wouldn't do this lackadaisical patchwork. Otherwise I'd have a crooked quilt. So just checking it's not too far, that'll do. And stitch down. And I've done a little securing stitch on it. So it's sewn there. I didn't have to sew along the bottom because that's where I've got another fold, and the fold that they tell you to cut against is that fold there, but I've also made another fold in the pattern which is that bottom bit. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to take it to my iron now.